Who is that a statue of sitting right there to my right? Well, that is Robert E. Lee. That's right. Robert Edward Lee. It's a very important statue. It's a very famous statue. And it was loaned to us for a week. And it was just fate. Fate that it happened. But that is the model of then one of the most famous Robert E. Lee statues ever made. You know, I grew up in Texas, and I grew up, you know, with every other high school named Robert E. Lee High School. And when you're so close to stuff like that, you don't really appreciate it until later I read history books. They wanted him to be the head of the U.S. military in the Civil War. He was the head of West Point. He graduated first of his class. He was a big war hero, a top engineer, super high IQ, absolutely hated war. But he believed in states' rights, and he knew that a lot of crazy stuff was going on. And so he got into that war. And then they used his property in Virginia for the Arlington Cemetery. After the war, he got to watch them bringing in all the dead bodies. And in his front yard, all of the bodies were buried. Many of the bodies were buried. There were articles by the thousands over the years and just everything, because he fought armies on average 4-1, 5-1, and won for 3 years. And so people respected that. So, of course, they named battleships and aircraft carriers and military bases after Southern generals. You know who they study in military affairs? Robert E. Lee and General Stonewall Jackson. And people loved the underdog. And this was about a nation coming back together later. This Robert E. Lee, why you hear about Robert E. Lee everywhere? What's the point? Like, okay, the commander of the Confederate forces, because he's one of the greatest generals, like Alexander the Great or George Washington. And so that's what I'm saying is Robert E. Lee was an amazing person. Went into the North, almost defeated it, almost took over Maryland, all of it. I mean, this is interesting stuff. And they just say, oh, we'll just tear down the statue. And then now it comes to us right at the hour that it should. See, that's the secret of God, the secret of the universe. The globalists and Google want to have this thing that watches everybody, but they're not a God. They can't even know what they're looking at. There's all these mysteries in the universe, all these amazing things.